Monsters, Movies, and Mayhem.
Zelda Rubinstein.
Is it Stein or Steen?
Zelda Rubinstein. I like Stein. Frankenstein. Zelda
Yeah,
Rubinstein.
But people say Frankenstein.
Do they say Frankenstein?
They do say Frankenstein.
Welcome to the Monsters, Movies, and Mayhem. We're your hosts, Murderface and
Brian. I only keep pets I could eat. Hidalgo.
And we're your hosts for the show. We are starting a show where we watch all our favorite horror movies and show each other some movies that we haven't seen. Like today's movie that we're reviewing, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I've never seen this I didn't even know about this until you told me about it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite mockumentaries, up there with Spinal Tap and not The Office.
That's right. Not The Office, but Spinal Tap and Behind the Mask. But Behind the Mask came out in 2006 and it was rated R. Should we talk about each other first before you jump into the movie? Like our history of like movies? We just watch a lot of horror movies.
I definitely think we should share our history of horror.
Well, do you want me to start?
Sure.
I will start.
Where were you on 9/11?
Well, it was a bright sunny day, lots of promise. But I'm Mexican American, so a lot of my horror starts like every Mexican American. Older siblings would tell me Chucky will get me if I don't clean the living room.
Is that a Mexican thing? Because I was tortured as a kid with Chucky as well.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
But it started with slashers. Chucky, Freddy.
No. You're saying it wrong.
Was going to get you.
Isn't it Chucky?
Chucky will run at you. All your toys that you have are going to come to life and be like an evil Toy Story. But with Mexicans, if you don't clean the house or if you don't pick up after the dog. So it all started pretty much from the womb, and it just escalated from there. You watch a lot of horror movies. You go to like Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, and then you go to like the foreign section, and you see like your first cover of like Ju-on and Ringu, and you're like, this looks terrifying. And then you see other foreign horror movies and just keeps escalating from there. But that's pretty much been my choice of film is horror. Maybe a little bit of action, not as much comedy, not as much as I would like to, because I just want to watch horror movies all the time. It's just something about, it's got a little bit of everything. There's so many subgenres to horror that just everything is different and everything tries to be different, but there's also lots of homages. But yeah, that was my experience with horror. What about yours?
I came to horror late in life, like everything. I'm a late bloomer. I grew up like scared as hell of Chucky.
Yes.
Because of the same thing.
That's right.
I had older cousins that tormented me with an actual Chucky doll.
Oh.
Yeah. Like I was locked in a closet with a Chucky doll. And when I came out, like
I'm not gonna point the camera up, but there's a Chucky doll right above me.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that was gonna be
it
bringing you back.
I'm totally over it.
Okay.
Now. Yeah. I only get like Vietnam flashbacks once in a while, but it's okay.
Nice.
But yeah, after that experience, I really didn't like horror movies for the longest time. It wasn't until middle school, when I met my hetero life mate, best friend, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
He introduced me to such films like Evil Dead, They Live. And I mean, I had seen Halloween at like Not slumber parties, but
slumber parties.
sleepovers. Yeah, I'd seen Halloween at a couple sleepovers. Ended up crying and then leaving early.
What happened? Why did you end up crying?
Because he scared the shit out of me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I would too, but you know.
But yeah, no, it wasn't until middle school that I ended up watching and falling in love with horror movies, and then it kind of just took off from there.
So when you saw them, like the covers of the like VHS tapes and DVDs at like Blockbuster, you didn't like, because the Evil Dead one is pretty significant. Like it's just a giant skull face with eyes staring at you. You weren't even a little bit curious to see what it was?
No. I'll be honest with you. When I was a kid, I stayed away from the horror section. Period. I do remember a couple covers though. Definitely the Dead Alive one.
Oh yeah.
The mouth with the little tiny
face coming out of it.
Yeah. I remember that one. I remember Silence of the Lambs as a kid. That one scared the crap out of me. The moth.
The moth
over the person's mouth. Yeah, there's a couple other ones that I remember.
Jack Frost. You ever see the Jack Frost one?
Was that the lenticular cover one?
Yeah.
Where it was a normal snowman on one side and then the evil snowman? I do remember that as a kid.
I saw that thinking it was the other Frost movie with the good snowman.
the one with Kevin Costner?
The one with Kevin Costner. Yeah, but I didn't get to rent it out, but I always thought, oh, it's just the Kevin Costner one. But
did you pick that up?
I think so.
You're gonna have to cut that out.
That's fine. We'll cut it out.
No cuts.
But okay, so that was you're gonna have a lot of catching up to do then on some of the older horror movies. Not older, but like 2000s, early 2000 horror movies.
Yeah, I watched them. Like that, I know what you did last summers, and
that's what I was talking
your
about. Your
Screams, your Urban Legends, your what other ones? Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
No, was that 2000s?
Valentine's Day was 2000s because I remember Angel from Buffy being like the main guy in it, and that was probably the last movie I ever seen him in.
Okay, I'm thinking of My Bloody Valentine, but apparently there's two movies with that almost the same time.
My Bloody Valentine is the one where it's the
guy from
the miner.
Yeah, the guy from Supernatural.
Who?
The guy from Supernatural.
Well, there's two guys. Dean
Winchester. Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy from
The Boys.
The rapper. Yeah. Him.
Yeah. And then, which is funny because the other guy was in the remake for Friday the 13th.
Really?
Yeah.
The remake?
Yeah.
I just saw it.
Yeah. Sam Winchester.
Yeah, that's right.
He was the brother looking for his sister.
On his motorcycle.
Yep.
By the way, they added fake motorcycle noises to him riding that motorcycle because that's not how first gear sounds when you're riding down a dirt path. I only know that now because now that I have a bike, that I'm watching everything with a bike, and I'm like, that's fake noises. They added that. They didn't. You can't jump from second to fourth like that and just expect anyone who rides a bike to know what that sounds like. Yeah,
our resident motorcycle expert.
but yeah, the show is going to be movies. It's called Movies, Monsters, and Mayhem. Monsters, Movies, and Mayhem, because we're going to be covering monsters, monster movies, and mayhem, which could be whatever we want, pretty much. So, like, we're going to be going to conventions. Monsterpalooza's coming up. We're going to be going to Sick New World in Vegas. We can cover that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be covering new movies that come out. Some of our favorite movies. Some movies that we haven't shown each other, or because we haven't seen them, but we will show each other our favorite movies, and it'll be like a like a weekly book club for just movies that we really like, and we're going to be doing spoiler reviews, and we're going to be going scene by scene. Well, parts that we like, and we're going to be going deep into.
Are you waiting for me?
That wasn't a window for you to just like drop like deep into her, No, it was just because we're going to be talking about.
I can't
spoilers.
always.
I know we can't always be on, especially because it's so late.
Yeah,
but
that was just low hanging fruit. You were expecting me. I'm not that easy. All right.
That's what she said. I had to say it once.
Yep.
I had to say it once. But today's episode, we are going to be reviewing the movie that I haven't seen. I did see because you showed it to me, but it's going to be Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Terrifying mask, by the way. Didn't expect that.
Do you feel like they used that mask in Dead by Daylight?
No. For which killer?
I think his name is the Trapper.
No.
Because he has like that weird like half face thing.
Oh, I thought that was like a paper mache mask.
His mask? Leslie Vernon's mask?
No,
or the Trapper?
The Trapper.
I don't know, man. It looks oddly like close.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to get another look because there's so many killers. I mean, the killers in there, I just kind of just focus on like the guest appearance killers like Freddy and Ghostface. I don't really look at the originals anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard after we get all these guests. But yeah, Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. When did you first see this movie?
I first saw this movie, I want to say randomly. I picked it up on Shudder like a few years ago. Yeah, I was just looking for something to watch. I was bored one night and porn wasn't doing it.
That's right.
So I decided to just put on Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon, and instantly fell in love with it.
I mean, it might be the first, but there's been a lot after. But like, that kind of mockumentary style where it's not shaky cam, but they have like cameras that you can see in the background. But it's a mockumentary type where it's just really ahead of its time, because you see a lot of movies doing that. Not a lot, but you see some movies try to do what they did, and they were, I think, the first.
Well, technically, I would say Spinal Tap, but it isn't horror.
Yeah, I'm talking specifically horror.
Was one of the first mockumentaries, but definitely the first horror mockumentary.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't consider it found footage, because found footage movies are usually after the fact. You know what I mean? Like, they find the footage after the
found footage. Yeah.
Ding ding. It's definitely a one of a kind movie.
Yeah. But Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Do you want to just get into the details of the movie? Not the details of the movie, but like who made it, when it came out, everyone that's worked on it.
Yeah.
So it came out in 2006 at South by Southwest. So it didn't have a really big like premiere like worldwide, but it did come out around the same time that Dead Silence came out.
No way.
Yeah. Like the same year, not the same month, but like a few months apart. But yeah, it was the big horror movie that came out that year was Dead Silence.
Which is weird because I have never seen it.
You've never seen Dead Silence?
No.
Do you know anything about it?
Ghost lady makes puppets out of people.
Yeah.
With her tongue, I think.
No, she cuts their tongues off.
Oh, okay. What that tongue do?
Yeah, that's why it's called Dead Silence, because when you scream, she cuts her tongue off.
Okay, well, we're not talking about that movie right now.
That's its counter. That's the counter. 2006 was the year of Dead Silence, not knowing that Behind the Mask was actually better. I like it better than Dead Silence. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, came out in 2006, premiered South by Southwest. We covered that already. IMDb gave it a 6.7 out of 10. It's got a score of 76% on Rotten Tomatoes. And written and directed by Scott Glosserman. It's the only movie I've heard from him.
Really? He didn't do anything else?
I mean, no, that's the only movie I've heard.
Oh.
I think he did some movie about like the truth about Wikipedia or something like that. But that was like the only thing I saw in his IMDb. It's starring Nathan Basil, which he really stole the show in this movie.
Oh yeah, I'm
especially for that time. It was given a lot of like Ryan Reynolds and what's the Jane Cook.
Yeah, like quirky white guy attitude.
Yeah, he was really good in it, especially for being a serial killer with just like that's just kind of like a goofball. But like when it comes to killing, it's dead silence.
Yeah,
dead silence.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. He's co-starring with Angela Goethals. She was the final girl in the movie. Well, spoilers. We're doing spoilers already.
Yeah,
but yeah, she's the main girl in the movie, and it's also starring. It's feel like a guest star because he's nowhere on the cover. It doesn't even say his name on like the starring. Robert Englund. Robert Englund shows up as
his Ahab.
His Ahab, which is the term from The Shining, right?
No, Ahab is a term from Moby Dick.
Oh, Captain Ahab. Okay. Yeah, and I was thinking about the cook from The Shining.
That's the cook from The Shining is Halloran.
I didn't know his name.
Yeah, Mr. Howell.
Okay. Yeah, I always just call him the cook. But yeah, Robert Englund shows up. It almost felt like a cameo when he came in.
Oh.
And then he's got like a legit role in the movie. He's in for like majority of it.
Oh yeah.
Another cameo is not cameo, but another star in the movie that I felt like was cameo was Zelda Rubinstein. Stein. She plays a Tangina, but I always call her Carol Ann. From Poltergeist. Her name's not Carol Ann.
The little
but
girl.
because she calls Carol Ann, and so I always think she's Carol Ann, even though, yeah. But yeah, she plays Mrs. Collinwood, and but the movie starts with the mockumentary team. They're talking about how there's so many slashers in their world. Slashers are basically real.
Yeah,
in this world.
They exist and they actually happened, and she recounts the events of Nightmare on Elm Street,
Halloween,
and Friday the 13th.
Very good. I mean, what other movies do they like where it's like, oh yeah, all those people are in our world?
I think they also mentioned Chucky at one point.
Yeah, that's right. They mentioned Chucky. So in this world, in this neighborhood, this town, slashers are legit.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, that really happened. And so that basically made copycat slashers where now they're trying to have like careers in the slashing business. And
competition between each other.
That's right. Competition between each other. And when the mockumentary team basically is like, we met one and we're going to do like a documentary on him. That's when Leslie Vernon comes in.
Yeah. Are we going to just skip past the Kane Hodder?
No, I was going to go into the references.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, when she's recounting like the events of all the other slashers, it randomly cuts to the actual Nightmare on Elm Street house.
That's right. They have a bunch of like film locations in their movies that they're just going back to and referencing. So when they're talking about the events that happened on Nightmare on Elm Street, they show the house.
And the owner of the house happens to be Kane Hodder.
Jason himself. A little shout out to Jason versus Freddy.
Was he Jason for the majority of them, or
No, not for the majority. He was. I'm pretty sure he was there for like four of them. I think.
hopefully the good ones?
I mean, the ones that are really brutal. Those are really fucked up.
Yeah.
The good fucked up killing ones. That's definitely Kane Hodder. But yeah, a lot of the film location references, like Kruger and Myers, even though most of it was filmed in Portland, which is like I couldn't even tell. I mean, you can just film any forest and say it's Portland.
Yeah. I mean, did they put a bird on it? Moving on.
Put a bird on it.
We'll put a bird on that.
Also, when they go to meet him, they go to his house. Well, they go to a house. He doesn't say it's his house.
Yeah, it looks like a abandoned house in the middle of was it a cornfield? No,
Yeah,
it was an apple orchard.
That's right, apple orchard.
Yeah, it was an apple orchard, and they go to knock on his door because they believe they see someone in the window, and then randomly like appears behind them in like the barn, and then it cuts to him up in the second floor.
That part is so funny because he explains to them like, "I got you, right?"
Yeah. And then finally, when he introduces himself, he walks them into his house and he gives them the tour of the house, all the books he owns on magic, like practical magic and escape artist books.
Oh my gosh.
And the joke where he pulls out the cards.
What happens with the cards?
So he asked the camera guys if they have any cards, and they're like, no, why would he have any cards? And he's like, are you sure? Check again.
Check your pocket.
Check your pocket. And then he randomly pulls out a deck of cards that wasn't originally there. That was a great joke. And then
he's ready for magic.
Yeah. And then right after that, it cuts to one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie where he's showing off his pet turtles.
Oh my god! What are the turtles' names again? They were there's so many references in this movie that they actually named the pet turtles Church and Zoe, which were also the names of the pets in Pet Cemetery.
That's right.
So he pulls those two turtles out.
Yeah,
Church and Zoe.
He pulls the two turtles out and he tells them, he's like, yeah, these guys are resilient. Like I'll go weeks without feeding them. and then just randomly, like he stone faced, after he puts the turtles back, he just, oh man, what does he say?
He puts the turtles back into the cage and he goes, yeah, these two are kind of like my best friends, but, you know, I can only keep pets that I can eat.
Yeah, I only keep pets that I can eat.
That's right. A little reference to your name,
yeah.
Brian. I only keep pets that I eat, that I can eat. Hidalgo.
Yeah.
And then so he's showing them around his house. He's basically explaining to them that he's trained his whole life to be a slasher, to be like one of the greats, you know. And so he takes them to his area where he trains, and they have a training montage. And I mean, when they got to that part, I was like, what could he possibly do? Is he like gonna stab like a punching bag to make sure he's got like the right arm movements for him?
No, first and biggest rule for him is cardio.
Yeah, cardio.
He explains that he has to be able to keep up with them like a gazelle and not get winded.
Yeah, because everyone, the biggest like fear you get when you're watching like Friday the 13th or Halloween is that all these people are running. So if you run, you're not going to escape from him because he's going to be always behind you.
Yeah.
You turn around, there he is. So now his training montage is running as fast as he can without them looking. And then when they turn around to look back at him, he has to walk. And he's still keeping up with them the whole time without getting winded. That was his biggest his biggest training montage. And when they uh ask him like, what else do you do for like to get ready to be a slasher, he basically says, "Oh, I'm gonna pick out my victims."
Yeah.
And his victims they have to go by like the classic horror movie rule. It's got to be a virgin.
Well, he starts off with the jocks, and he explains that the jocks are perfect because they're dumb and they have high libidos.
Yeah.
And then he cuts over to the stoners, and he's like, "You want a couple of them because they're slow, and you can pad your numbers at the end."
And then it gets to the virgin,
the final girl.
Yeah, which is also funny because when they're naming these like characteristical traits for these kids, they're actually looking at them. And so you see the jocks, and camera turns, you see the stoners, but in the background, you can see two girls in like white dresses playing jump rope, and it's a reference to Nightmare on Elm Street.
No way! I totally missed that scene.
Yeah, if you watch it, it shows like, okay, here's the jocks. It slowly pans over to like the stoners, and you see the girls playing jump rope.
See, this is another reason why I love this movie. Like, you can watch it a bunch of times and always find something new in the background.
Oh yeah, there's tons of references to any slasher movie, any horror movie is going to be referenced in Behind the Mask, and you can watch it 1,000 times and find something new. Like, I didn't know about the two turtles until I looked it up. Because there's like a list of references, and even those have like stuff that they don't mention later on.
Yeah, and then so right after he shows off all the different groups and archetypes of horror characters, it skips to number 3, which is the flyby.
Yes, the flyby.
So, explaining the flyby, a flyby is. How would you explain it? It's the first time the killer sort of shows himself to the final girl.
The flyby is basically to let the final girl know that something's up.
She's being watched.
I feel like I'm being watched.
Yeah.
She can feel eyes on her. And so what he does is he finds out that she works at a diner, classic teenage virgin job, and so he's got to wait for her to close. So he basically gets her schedule. He's explaining all this to the mockumentary team. Like, he's like, yeah, so tonight's Friday. So I'm going to go over there. I'm going to wait for her to take out the trash, because she takes the trash out right before closing.
Yeah.
And that's when the flyby comes into play.
Yeah. And the flyby consists of multiple parts happening at the same time. So the virgin girl, whenever she takes out the trash, she props the door open with a brick. So he rigs the brick with a fishing line so he can pull it and the door will slam shut behind her. So what he does is he hides in the shadows, appears when she's throwing away the trash.
And she's like, oh, is someone watching me? It kind of looks like there's someone out there. And just when she's like I can kind of make someone out,
he pulls the string, which shuts the door, and that distracts her. So when she turns back, he disappears.
Perfect.
And that is the flyby.
That's the flyby. You see it in every classic slasher movie, and it's just so funny for them to get the slasher's perspective on it. It just like it made me laugh so hard, because I'm like, what if Michael Myers was doing this? What if he's rigging a brick with fishing line, and he's waiting in a bush, and he's just like, come on out, and he just giggles his way out of the shot. Like, can you imagine just like watching Michael Myers stand right next to a bush and just watching her, and then she turns around, and he turns around, and he's just like giddy, like she's so fucking scared. Dude. Like,
she's so fucking stupid. She doesn't
God,
notice.
Teenagers are so dumb. I got this in the bag. You're all dead. Perfect.
It makes me think like all the steps that he took during the where he's sitting outside the window in the clothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure every scary thing he's done it's just tons of steps to it, and he's written them all down. So the flyby happens, and they successfully.
Yeah.
Everything happens successfully, and then Leslie wants to introduce them to his mentor, Eugene, but they meet him in kind of a strange way. They drive to Eugene's house, and they're like, "We have to dig him up."
They
And
meet
you're
his
like,
wife.
He's dead, right?
His wife. They meet his wife, and she's like, "Oh, he's in the isolation chamber."
That's right. They drive up to Eugene's house, meet his wife, and they're like, "Where is he?" He's in the isolation chamber. Oh, okay, it's probably like a shed.
But what they don't know is when they walk out into the middle of the woods, he's buried.
Yeah.
So
in the isolation chamber.
in the isolation chamber. So when they unbury him,
They have to dig.
Yeah, they
like
have to
lot.
dig.
He's deep in there.
And he wakes up and he's like, "What day is it?"
First of all, when you see the movie and you watch him digging up the isolation chamber, this came out in 2006.
Yeah.
And the actor that plays Eugene is Scott Wilson, Herschel from The Walking Dead. Herschel from The Walking Dead. Yeah.
So how long after this movie did The Walking Dead? Walking Dead came out what?
Walking Dead came out like in 2009, I think. So this was like a good 3 years before The Walking Dead, but Herschel came out in the second season.
Yeah. So like probably like 2010.
So like 3 years.
Yeah.
And by the time I saw this, I was like, that's Herschel. What the fuck is Herschel doing in this movie? There's so many cameos in it. And Herschel comes out of the isolation chamber and he's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Eugene."
Yeah.
And like the mentor of Leslie, this soon to be great slasher.
But you're skipping over the fact that he explains the reason why he stays in the isolation chamber is to slow his breathing down, to almost look dead, to be able to confuse victims.
That's right.
To make him think that he's dead.
Yeah, we killed him. And,
and then
because he's the mentor because he was a slasher back in the 70s.
Yeah, and then later on, you find out that his wife was the final girl.
Yeah,
in his movie or.
Well, there either the director or the writer of Behind the Mask referenced that Eugene was the serial killer in Black Christmas.
No way, really?
Yeah, he played Billy in Black Christmas. So they made the screenplay for the movie, and in the screenplay they just wrote in, "Oh yeah, he's Billy from Black Christmas from the 70s."
But they didn't actually make.
No,
would have
they
been.
didn't say it in the movie.
That would have been great.
That also would have made sense why he wanted to control his breathing, because in Black Christmas you just hear the breathing on the phone for a little bit.
Yeah.
He doesn't respond, he just breathes.
Yeah.
Just like that. Another reference though is that right before they meet Eugene, when they're leaving to go there, they pass by Leslie's car. It's the Oldsmobile in Evil Dead.
Really?
Yeah, Sam Raimi's Oldsmobile.
It's in the park
It's in the driveway.
In the driveway of Eugene's house, right?
No, it's in the driveway of Leslie's house as they're about to leave to go see Eugene.
There's another one that I missed.
That's 1,000 references in this movie. But yeah, they meet up with her. They meet up with Herschel. They meet up with Eugene, and he's basically explaining to them like how slashers are different from the slashers back in his day, and they're talking about like the skills it takes to be a slasher, but it's also kind of just like a tongue-in-cheek reference to like horror movies.
Yeah, because I think at this point they also mentioned Chucky.
Yeah.
But he's talking about how back in the day he's talking about how it got stale. Like slasher, you got all these like wannabe slashers coming in and ruining it. But
It's
then
oversaturated.
yeah, it's oversaturated. But then you get someone like the Michaels, the Chuckies, and the Jasons who came and elevated the art to the next level.
They talk about it like it's. I mean, in their world, it is real, but it's just so funny hearing them how they talk about it
like baseball stars or sport. I don't know sports.
sport ball.
Sports ball heroes.
And so Leslie's talking to Eugene. He's like, "Well, why? Like, what's up? Like, why'd you come see me? There's gotta be a reason." And Leslie tells him that he found his girl. He found his final girl, which was the diner girl.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, you know what you need now is you need to get her into the not the trap, but like get her to think that she's special,
That she's connected
she's
to him.
connected to him in some kind of way."
Because this later leads into his next step, where it's establishing the anchor of his legend
In the library.
Yeah, but he explains that his anchor, his legend, is what, as a kid, his mom was raped or something, and he ended up. Oh man, this is all gonna get edited out. Yeah. So his legend starts off with him being the son of like two evil parents and him killing them both, and then the townspeople throwing him over a waterfall, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But to connect the final girl to his legend, he doctors fake newspaper articles to make it seem like her great uncle or something?
Great uncle. Yeah.
Was his dad.
That's right.
The person that raped his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the connection. And so he puts these fake articles into the microfiche.
Oh my God, the microfiche.
And
yeah, she goes into the library, the virgin.
Yeah,
goes into the library and reads the microfiche.
Yeah, that's when we meet. What was her name? Zelda.
I just call her Carol Ann. But yeah,
Zelda
Rubinstein.
Yeah, from Poltergeist. That's where she comes in. She's the librarian that works at that library, and she's
another great cameo.
Yeah, and that's where she shows her the articles on the microfiche and the connection. And then, isn't this also when he pops up for the first time and murders?
Yeah, he pops up to attack her because, no, he makes it look like he's going to attack the teenager, but he actually kills Zelda Rubinstein.
Yeah, he kills. Librarian. Yeah, because you don't want to kill the final girl first off. You want someone close to her, but it isn't part of the friends group. Right. Is how he explains it.
Yeah, the one who's warning you about the lore. On the town and Leslie.
Yeah,
but first death of the movie, right?
Yeah, she is the first death of the movie.
I'm pretty sure it's Zelda Rubinstein's final movie. Because
really?
She died not too long afterwards.
Okay.
I think this was her last role.
I think this is a good way to go off then.
I mean, it is, but not talking trash on Zelda Rubinstein, but if you're watching it, the camera goes behind her and you can tell it's dubbed from earlier, in the studio.
Yeah.
Because she's looking down at her notes while she's saying the lore. Because it's so much lore. It's a lot for her to say.
But I think that's part of the gag.
Because it's so long, she has to look down at her script.
Yeah.
To read it.
Yeah, it's part of the gag, the whole mockumentary thing.
Oh yeah.
So that's part of the gag is her having to look at the script.
Well, it just went over my head. I was saying for a second, I was taking it too literally.
You're like, I think they fucked
and I'm
up.
totally forgetting that it's a mockumentary. But yeah, Leslie shows up. He kills Zelda Rubinstein. And he's about to chase the virgin teenager, And then who shows up?
His Ahab.
His Ahab shows up.
Robert fucking England.
Man, what an entrance. Comes in looking just like
Dr. Loomis.
Dr. Loomis, trench coat and all.
And fires how many shots at Leslie? I think he hits him like twice, doesn't he?
I think he hits him in like the shoulder.
Yeah. And then I think he does like a backflip or something. And
he does like a backflip out the window.
Yeah.
And the mockumentary team just meets him out there.
Yeah, they just like walked out and they're like, who the hell was that? And Leslie's like super excited.
He's
like
so pumped.
He's so pumped that he has an Ahab.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's an Ahab?
And then they go see Eugene.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go see Eugene so they can talk about it.
Yeah, and Eugene explains that Ahab is like the Dr. Loomis. He's someone who's connected to Leslie from his past, who knows that Leslie is evil and is there to hunt him. They said something. He's like, oh, man, I forget what the line was, but he's like pure good.
That's right. That because there's to have someone be pure good, there has to be someone that's pure evil.
Yeah.
And so they were the evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when they go back to Eugene's house, in the background, there's another horror movie reference. You can see like a fucked up dollhouse, which is like another reference to, I think, Nightmare on Elm Street 4 or 5. The Nightmare on Elm Street with the dollhouse, basically. Especially since they just saw, and they're talking about Robert Englund.
I can't. Did you see these or did you look these up?
Both.
So you noticed that?
I noticed it, and then I went to double check like on a list, and it was there.
Okay, because that one flew over my head also.
Especially since that dollhouse I tried to recreate with like Michael's Arts and Supplies houses, and I just would fuck it up to make it look all messed up.
Yeah.
It's up there. Well, it's not there up there anymore. But yeah, I made one just like it, so I remember that. But yeah, they're talking about pure good versus pure evil. And so the mockumentary team kind of gets an idea of like how far this is going to go.
Yeah.
So right afterwards, now they're going to... So now the mockumentary team is kind of like backpedaling a little bit around this point of the movie.
They're second guessing it because they just witnessed an actual murder.
Yeah, the mockumentary team didn't expect gunshots
or murder.
That's right. Zelda Rubinstein died.
Yeah. So
R.I.P.
So now they're backtracking and kind of like second guessing the whole documentary, and they want to go and warn the final girl.
So they go back
to the diner
in daytime. So Leslie won't know.
And they start talking to her, but then
Robert Englund shows up.
Yeah, Robert Englund shows up and he questions them. Like
he also gives a look right into the camera, because this is like, now it's like a hidden camera because they don't want anyone to know, but they have to like document it in case like she admits to the crime.
Yeah.
That she just saw. And then when they see Robert Englund in the background, kind of just like they're watching him watch the teenager, and then he notices them, so he looks at the camera and it looks so smooth. Just Robert Englund just looking straight at the camera like, you what are you doing here with this camera? And then he goes to talk to him.
See, this was a perfect example why I think Dr. Loomis would also play why Robert Englund would play a good hero in a movie also. Like,
I haven't seen him in anything that wasn't a horror movie.
I haven't seen him in anything. Yeah, exactly. What? I know what you know. Urban Legends.
Urban Legends
and the Nightmare movies. Yeah. And then this.
House of 1,000 Maniacs.
I've never seen that.
Or I think it's just called 1,000 Maniacs.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he shows up.
Future episode.
I haven't seen it either.
Future episode.
And so he basically warns them. Leslie's not who you think he is.
Doesn't he give him his real name?
He gives him a name and says, I bet you think Leslie is his real name. And then they're like, is it not? Tells them that he's from, where is he from? Like Connecticut or something like that?
Yeah.
Tells them that he's, Nevada. He says they're in Nevada. He's from a different. Doesn't matter where he's from. He's lying to the mockumentary team.
Yeah.
And so now they're having like second guesses on the whole thing.
Yeah. They don't trust him anymore. They're wondering what he's up to because he's lied to them about his identity. He just murdered someone.
And they're about to snitch on the whole thing. They're about to tell the girl. They don't tell her though.
Yeah. And then don't they notice Leslie in the background or something?
No, they go to leave through like the back door and he's out there.
Yeah.
Like, waiting
okay.
Because he's watching them.
And he's angry.
Yeah, he's pissed.
Because
you guys are trying to fuck this up for me.
Yeah. They almost gave it away for him.
Yeah, his whole life's work. Well, that's what he was saying, his whole life's work. Leslie's pissed.
So Leslie's pissed and
then so Taylor, the head of the mockumentary team, she goes to Leslie and tells him that what's up with your Ahab actually being your psychiatrist back in Nevada.
Yeah.
And then he starts to go even more mad because he's like, don't even fucking believe him. You know, that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But it turns out he actually is just a
regular guy from Nevada.
A regular guy from Nevada who's also like a mental patient.
Yeah.
Because he treated him. Robert Englund treated Leslie as a mental patient. But Leslie convinces them, you know, to just keep doing the mockumentary because he's going to keep on going with his plan to kill
regardless
the teenager and her jock and stoner friends. And so they're like, I guess we'll help you, but their real plan is to actually like save these kids.
Yeah.
Because he's actually crazy.
Yeah. So they plan to supposedly help him, but their secret intent is to help rescue the teenagers.
Yeah. It all got a little bit too real for them.
Yeah. So right after that conversation with Leslie, it cuts to them at the apple orchard where he's going to stage the whole murder.
Right.
And he's explaining to them that he has to go in and set everything up perfect. Like the weapons, he has to go in and sabotage them. So when they hit him, it doesn't kill them.
Yeah, like they go to pick up a hammer and it breaks.
It breaks after one use.
Because he like cracks it a little bit.
Yeah, and he tells them that he sets the layout of the weapons so they always go for like the sabotaged weapons first because they're the closest.
Right.
He goes through the steps of how he's going to take out each teenager.
Yeah, by like nailing the window shut.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they're like, why don't they just jump out the window? And he's like, it's funny you mentioned that because that's never happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's true. In every horror movie, you're like, jump out the window and run. And none of them do it.
Yeah.
They try to open it, but they can't. And then he explains that there's multiple exits through the house. He's like, I nailed all the windows down. He's like, don't worry about the upstairs windows because most of the time they won't jump off the roof. He's like sawing this house.
Yeah.
He's doing like, not like saw traps, but he's like making it so
he's prepping
they have to go in the way that he wants.
Yeah. So he preps the house. Then he explains to them each kill and the way he explains it is
they're all like horror tropes.
Yeah, they're all horror tropes. So he takes out the teenagers having sex first.
Yeah.
And then he takes out the
stoners.
The stoners, but he talks about how he's going to lay out.
Yeah, he makes it so like I'm going to kill them in a way where it's like the stoners will find them if they walk into the room and just like turn on the light switch.
Yeah. Like he talks about setting up the bodies like they do in like the Friday movies and
stuff. Felt like I was listening to like a screenwriter about to like write out his horror movie on how they're going to walk into the house.
But as he explains it, as he's explaining it and you're watching that movie, I don't know if you felt the same way, but did you have scenes from other horror movies pop into your head? Scream. For me, it was like any Friday the 13th movie.
Oh, yeah.
wherever she opens like a door and there's a body falls out
Yeah.
on top of them. But yeah, so he explains everything. He talks about how the final girl has to go through all of these things.
Yeah, she's the main reason why he's doing all
Yeah,
this.
that she has to go through this like these obstacles
Right.
in order to what is it?
Well, he's explaining to the crew how she represents a lot, and one thing that he talked to them about is that
Oh, but so during the explanation and how he's gonna kill each teenager and the setup and everything, he talks about how the closet is kind of like a womb.
nobody gets killed in the closet.
Nobody ever gets killed in the closet. It's a womb. It's safety. And then what was her name? Sarah or the mockumentary? Taylor. She out of nowhere, she's like, "So you're a chauvin or you're pro-life?"
Yes.
And he just answers with a straight face, "Yes." And then later when he's talking about that the final girl has to go through this whole ordeal to come out the other end like transformed,
Right.
and take his weapon,
His manhood.
and use it against her.
His weapon is manhood.
And Taylor's like, "So you're also a chauvinist."
Feminist. Is it?
Did he say feminist or chauvinist?
It might be chauvinist.
Yeah, I think
it was feminist.
I think he said chauvinist.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, so this is everything that they're going through is him basically saying what he's expecting.
Yeah.
So what he's planning for.
Yeah, his master plan.
Yeah, because the house that they're booby trapping basically is the one abandoned house in town where they're all going to go there to have a party.
Yeah.
Like every Friday the 13th movie. Except they're not at Camp Crystal Lake, but they're at a place where teenagers are basically the only adults there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're going to later at night they're going to go have that party, her and her friends. So now he's got time to get ready.
Yeah. And then he explains that that everything is going to lead up to the final battle in the apple orchard.
Yeah.
And that if everything goes to plan and the final girl goes through her transformation, that it's going to end with his death, regardless.
Right.
The apple press. So after he explains everything, it's the night of the big plan.
Yeah.
And all the teens show up like he had planned, and the jock. No, so everyone's hanging out, and the jock and the final girl. This is my favorite joke in the whole movie.
Yes.
Where, so Taylor decides to help him, and they go to warn the teens. And she's looking for the final girl. And this is the best joke in the whole movie, where they run upstairs where supposedly like the whore friend and the jock are supposed to be getting it on. And they open the door and it's our final girl.
The virgin.
The virgin getting it on with one of the jocks. Gratuitous
boobs.
Yeah. And she just shouts at them like, "Get the fuck out," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then so the mockumentary group leaves the room and they're like, "Oh shit, Leslie is going to be pissed."
Yeah, she's not a virgin anymore.
Yeah, this ruins their...
Maybe she was never a virgin.
No, they say she was never a virgin.
Yeah.
Like the whore friend who's the one that calls her out for being a whore.
That's right.
But after that, that's when the whole plan starts happening.
Yeah, his plan goes into motion. Teenagers start dying left and right.
Yeah, exactly how he planned it out.
Exactly how he planned it out. Except one of the stoners, he gets it real bad. He gets his heart ripped out and then handed to him.
Oh, yeah.
So he's holding his heart and he's super high, just looking at his heart in his hand. He's just like, "Oh shit." And then he dies.
And then
holding his heart in his hand.
Yeah. And then I think the heart pumps one more time or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
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 And then,
So now the killings are happening. Leslie knows the mockumentary team is, they're not on his side anymore.
and they start to notice that Leslie is deviating from the original plan that he told them,
Well,
because they
before
are
that,
they're trying their best to stop his plan, but it turns out that Leslie is one step above them already.
But when that happens, it's funny because it was all going according to plan with the mockumentary team and Leslie and the teenagers. And then once it gets like off the rails, the movie stops being a mockumentary and it turns into an actual regular horror movie.
Yeah.
The camera, there's no more handheld cameras, no more like shaky cam with the microphone and everything. The boomstick is gone. Now it's like there's one regular movie camera, and it's showing the mockumentary team.
Yeah,
and it's
they are
showing,
a part of the movie now.
you don't see Leslie like look for the camera anymore. You don't see Leslie like he's in serial killer mode. So now the last 30 minutes is like a horror movie.
Yeah,
And because they're like, we don't know what he's gonna do anymore, then that's how you know it's like, well, now anything can happen. So now it's a legit horror movie.
Yeah.
Because before they were going with the horror tropes, and now they're like, oh, he was supposed to have a dead body here, and there's nothing there, and then they turn around and they get jump scared by the dead body because it's somewhere they didn't expect it to be.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah. And then you start to figure out that, was it at this point that we find out that he wasn't targeting the teenager?
Yeah, once they basically start seeing the teenagers drop, and they're like, Taylor is trying to like get them out. She's basically the new final girl.
Yeah.
Not new. She was actually the final girl all along.
Yeah, she realizes that she starts to put it together that Leslie is the one that reached out to her for this whole documentary.
Mm-hmm.
That he was staking out the mockumentary group the whole time.
Which, when you think about it, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But it was still a nice twist. You're like, that would have been the twist in a different movie. But it was, that would have been obvious in another movie, but it was a pretty good twist here.
Yeah. Taylor finally realizes that she was the final girl the whole time.
Being a virgin herself.
Which
I didn't know.
Yeah, neither did I. That one escaped me. And her cameraman, Doug, decides to sacrifice Todd.
Yeah.
Todd decides to sacrifice himself by leading Leslie out into the apple orchard.
Yeah, away from the house, pretty much away from.
Yeah, but he ends up biting it, but that gives them time for the rest of the people to try to escape. But it seems like they're still falling for the same traps.
Yep.
And it ultimately leads back to the apple press and their final confrontation. And how does I forget how she got him into the apple press.
So Taylor led him into the apple orchard, and it was the big final fight. Leslie did want to have the final fight be around the apple press.
Yeah.
He was just pretty much getting Taylor ready for it.
Yeah.
Even though Taylor thought it was going to be for Kelly, the teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were having that fight, and it did end up having Leslie. What happened to Leslie with the apple press?
His head went into the apple press, and she twisted it until it like clamped down on his head, and then she gave it one more twist, which crushed his skull.
I wish she had a one-liner.
Yeah.
At that part, that would have been great.
Yeah.
Who ordered apple juice?
No. Well,
you like these apples?
How about them apples?
How about them apples? Crushes his head in the apple press.
And then I think it just cuts. Oh, no.
No, well, she finishes off Leslie, and he basically lets her know that it was her the whole time. She was going to be the final girl, basically kill Leslie, which is his greatest goal to being one of like the biggest slashers. You have to die.
Yeah.
To be like a great slasher, he's gonna end it on a high note. And he did. He ended it on the high note. His whole plan went exactly to his liking, and then the only survivors left was Taylor, her cameraman Doug, and
And Doc
and
Doc
his a-
Halloran,
and then Doc, yeah,
Robert England.
Robert England, and and then that they rolled credits, but like any good horror movie, it doesn't end there because there's after credits.
Yeah, during the credits, it shows you the point of view of security cameras at
In the autopsy room.
Yeah, at the morgue in the autopsy room, and you just see the mortician just doing his thing, and then randomly in the background is Leslie's body, and he just pops up kind of like Michael does.
Yep.
And then that's when it cuts.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie.
And they were gonna make a sequel.
Yeah, so you know what happened, right?
So they had the sequel written up, the screen was done, the screenplay was written up, I mean, and they actually had a table reading with Leslie, Taylor, and the director. But the sequel didn't really go anywhere. They didn't get the money for it. They did get a Kickstarter, but then the Kickstarter didn't meet its
Goals.
either, which I'm kind of glad, because this was one of those movies where it's like, if they made a sequel, they would just compare it to the first one, and you can't really,
It'd
do
be
the same
more
thing
of the
twice.
same. It'd be more of the same, but just not as good.
Yeah. The director was interviewed, and he had pitched this sequel. It didn't go well, but he did talk to MTV about making a TV show.
That would have been great.
But the TV show was going to be centered around Taylor, the final girl who survived, and she would be starting her own school for final girls, teaching them how to survive against their slashers. And it would kind of be like To Catch a Predator style movie, TV show.
Yeah.
And they pitched the idea to MTV, and MTV was thinking about it, and they it looked good, but the money didn't go through.
They decided to go with Teen Mom instead.
I mean, if they just had one slasher in Teen Mom, it would have been Behind the Mask too. They pretty much finished it off. I like one-offs. I like one-off horror movies. Not everything has to be a series.
No.
Especially when it's like a mockumentary like this, where it's looking back at all the
It's
franchises that are series.
It's a love letter to slasher films.
So it should just be one.
Yeah.
You don't want a series of love letters.
You don't want to water
turns
it
into something
down.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, this was, if I was going to rate it, like 3 out of 5.
So I did good for our first pick.
I mean, I like it because I love horror movies. If anyone was to watch this now that wasn't a horror fan, they wouldn't get the references, but they would like the Office style filming of it.
Yeah, the Office style humor and
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good it's a good movie that you need to watch at least once.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to watch this at least once.
Yeah.
And
so how do we end this?
Well, I got one more reference. So the last reference, well, the reference that the director was talking about, he said that his favorite reference was when Leslie's getting ready for his like killing spree. So he's putting on his makeup and his mask, and the music he's listening to is the song in The Shining that plays when you see the picture from the party at the overlook.
Mm-hmm.
And it's The Shining music. There's blocks behind by his lamp in the background
Mhm.
that spell out red rum, and it cuts later to something else, and it goes back to uh, to the blocks, and it says murder spelled out. So that was a nice Shining reference, and yeah, it's something that you don't really pick up on because it's in the background, but it's just so many references in the movie. Um, but what was your favorite kill in the movie?
My favorite kill is definitely when the stoner gets his heart ripped out with a post hole digger,
Yes.
which is funny because Leslie, talking, when he's explaining his plan, Taylor, she's like, "What happens if they just try to run?" He's like, "Well, one of them's gonna just get it with a post hole digger," and what ends up happening to one of the stoners.
He gets his heart ripped out and then handed to him.
And handed to him.
He holds his own heart really high.
Yeah.
That's one way to go.
Yeah.
Another way to go is by ending the show.
Definitely. It is that time of...
It's definitely that time. We're definitely going to keep doing this because we have a lot of movies to cover. There's a lot that I haven't seen. There's a lot that you haven't seen.
I think there's more that you have seen that I haven't.
But you know what? We're still going to cover movies we like.
Yeah, we're definitely
going to go back to some classics.
Definitely hit some classics. Definitely
watch some new ones together.
Definitely some new ones. We'll probably do some other episodes, a little deviation from this standard episode.
Yeah.
Maybe do some brackets.
We're definitely going to do brackets, tournaments, drafts, like top 5 slashers. And we have a list. We'll have drafts. So you get a pick, then I get a pick. And if you pick Michael first, I'll pick Freddy next. And then that'll be the draft pick.
Okay.
Lots of ideas, lots of plans. Now that we have everything's ready to go.
Yeah, it took us a long time to get this.
No, it didn't. We did this in one shot. This was our first time.
Perfect. Perfect right out of the gate.
Right. This was a no death Dark Souls speed run. Perfect.
Yeah. No. Don't believe him. Don't believe the hype.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Monsters, movies, and mayhem.